Welcome to our third and final segment of the we got Talkin Giants guys over here somewhere, and we got I actually didn't put it in the right view. Do you guys want to do gallery view like this, or do we do the regular view? Because I don't even care, honestly. We'll just leave it like this. We'll
Let's
just
leave
do
it like
that.
this.
All right. Okay, cool.
Like the
So we'll
Brady
do
bunch.
this. Yeah. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We don't know which order you're watching these videos in, but if this is first, second, third, we appreciate you joining. So go ahead and follow these two guys. I don't know if I'm doing this right, but Bobby and Justin, they're awesome. I think they're the Twitter kings of for Giants content, and you can follow them on YouTube as well, Talkin Giants. And, of course, we have my man diagonally, Christy Entertainah. Awesome on YouTube. You can follow him on Twitter as well. But guys, how you doing? I know we've been talking for 3 hours basically, but how's everyone doing?
I'll be honest, Mike. You're getting the worn out version of it. This is like the last 6 minutes of the fourth quarter version of us.
Yeah.
I'm on my fourth bottle of water. We're getting through, but it's the topic I think we're all going to have the most fun talking about.
It's
where it's like
optimistic.
Yeah. Where it's like the last two we've been back and forth. Where it's like this one, it's just going to be a big love fest.
If I hear any negativity over this man, you're getting kicked from the chat or whatever. I'm not going to have – no, I'm kidding.
Should we get the negative thing out of the way, or should we save it like right to the end?
What's the negative thing, Jason?
Yeah, I don't
Garrett?
know what it is, honestly.
We're talking about our good friend, savior of the franchise, Joe Judge.
Right.
That's our main conversation. If you didn't pick it up, but the bad thing is the fourth down decision making. So are we doing that now?
Right, Justin's just taking over and going right into
Mr.
it.
Analytics over here. Come on.
Yeah, it's Mr. Analytics.
Do not say anything bad about Joe Judge. Do not say anything bad about Joe Judge. I'm going to get very upset if you do that, Justin. No, but all kidding aside, yeah, thank you for having me on, Mike. Always love working with you. Looking forward to jumping into Joe Judge with you guys. And like Bobby said, I think it's mainly going to be a love fest. But yeah, there's little things you could nitpick, I'm sure.
All right, so we'll just go over the little overview quickly. So when the Giants had their head coaching search, I remember I made a video about this. I had Joe Judge on the bottom because I didn't know who the hell he was. And then they hire him, and it's like, wow, this guy really killed the introductory press conference, and I just loved him. He spoke a big game, but can he prove it? Now, their record isn't great. We get that. But the past 2 weeks and even recently, things are looking a lot better. There's a lot of signs and a lot of clues that this is the guy. I'm sold personally. I think a lot of people here are sold. I'm sure a lot of other Giants fans are sold. Joe Judge is awesome in my opinion. But we'll start with Bobby. What are your overall thoughts about Joe Judge so far through the season?
Yeah. To start the year, I was fine with Joe Judge, but I was on the mindset of what has he shown me? We won one game with I like him, but it's like I'm not in love with him. What I liked about him most was he hired Patrick Graham, and I'm a Patrick Graham fan. Patrick Graham has changed the way I've looked at things. He's taught me new things about the game. I love that. And then with this Colombo thing, it really is okay, this guy really is the guy, and he's in control, and you can see the way this team plays, the way this team's coached. I kind of like Shermer, more so because I just like the way he developed Jones. But you did see with Shermer, it's there really wasn't a ton of attention to detail. You could tell he had no role in the defense, where Judge is putting his fingerprints all over this team. And we saw that it's not just on the defense. He's working with the offensive line. And I know this is speculative, but I think he's kind of put his fingerprints on the play calling, the run game a little bit, not just blocking. But the first part of the season, it was like a high school running offense. And now they've been doing different stuff, not the craziest stuff in the world, but where they're trapping and leaving guys unblocked on the edge. So I have dove into I'm a big Joe Judge fan after being a little skeptic, to start the year.
Yeah, I definitely can't blame you. Now, we'll go to Chris. I'll leave Mr. Negativity over here for last, but we'll go with Chris next here on his thoughts on Joe Judge.
Yeah, you bring up that you didn't know Joe Judge. I slightly knew who he was because during the offseason I was doing videos on every head coaching candidate that they were bringing in. I think they interviewed 6, or they were scheduled to interview 6, and they obviously cut some short when they decided to hire Judge. And I remember when I did those videos, I got 5,000-6,000 views on the majority of them. With Judge, I got 1,000 because everybody in their head was just there is no way they're going to hire this guy. I'm not even going to bother. And then as soon as they hired Judge, it spiked up. Everybody wanted to check him out. But in the video, because I went back and I watched it, I'm curious if I want to see what my initial thoughts were when I did some research on Joe Judge. And in the video, the first thing I said was, I don't think they're going to hire him because it wasn't a traditional New York Giant hire. Giants traditionally hire somebody with more credentials, like, a guy like Shermer who had prior head coaching experience. And like Bobby, I was actually in favor of keeping Shermer, as crazy as most of the fan base was to get rid of him, and I understand why. And Shermer was always an offensive coordinator that was a head coach. He's an OC. He's not a head coach. But I worried about Daniel Jones, and I think we saw the effects of it early on this year with Jason Garrett having to learn a new scheme, with the pandemic, everything else, and I thought that he fit the Shermer scheme well. But when I did my research on Judge, one of the things I definitely said in my video was this guy is incredibly smart. I could understand why they brought this guy in for an interview. Plus, he's got the ties to Belichick and everything else. But when you looked at his laundry list of credentials, this guy was working on a doctorate degree while he was coaching in the NFL. He was multitasking. He got a background from both Nick Saban and Bill Belichick, the two greatest coaches in my lifetime. You couldn't have been, brought up, and I know people are scared of the Belichick coaching tree, but this felt different. And then when you factored in the special teams thing, when I first heard about it, I'm like, special teams? But I liked that he had experience on both sides of the ball, and it was the opposite of our previous two head coaches, McAdoo, Shermer. Those guys were offensive coordinators pretending to be head coaches. Joe Judge was brought up to be a head coach, and since he's gotten here, the guy's been a man of his word. I mean, this guy does not take, for lack of a better word, shit from anybody. I mean, Andrew Thomas, you show up late to a meeting, you're on the bench. Golden Tate, you do what you did, you're not playing this week. You're staying home. And then obviously with Mark Colombo, and he has complete control of his team. And the other thing, people often ask me, what was the defining moment where you fully bought in? And there's a couple of moments in the season. And to me, how I view a coach, when the team has an excuse to not come out and play hard for you, they give you everything they got. And, there's been several games this year. They got blown out against the 49ers. They had every excuse to roll over and die the following week going into LA, a game in which nobody gave them a chance. And they fought tooth and nail for their head coach until the bitter end of that game. Then later on in the season, they played the Philadelphia Eagles, and we all know what happened there. They had an 11-point lead. They choked that game away. It was a heartbreaking loss. And the team could have rolled over and died. They were going up against the Tampa Bay Bucks, one of the best teams in football the following week, 13-point dog. They should have won the football game. So to me, I'm so encouraged, not to mention how smart the guy was to bring in all these guys to the coaching staff. He has a brilliant coaching staff, and you could tell that this was so well thought out over the course of 8 or 9 years because all these guys are from different spots, whether it's Burton Burns from Alabama, the running back coach, whether it's some of the guys from the Patriots. It's just guys he's met along the way that he's had relationships with, and you could tell he knew day one, this is who I'm going to have on my coaching staff. And it's beautiful. It's the complete opposite of Shermer. You can tell everything is so thorough and planned out. Even when you see him do some things like on special teams, I'm just, a quick thing off the top of my head. It didn't result in anything. But I think it was like 2 weeks ago. The Giants, they went out there to show as if they were going for it, but the whole time they knew that they were going to punt. And 20 seconds into the play clock, they quickly shifted to try to get them to get that 5-yard penalty to get that first down. That is something that Pat Shermer would never even attempt or think of. So to me, he's just such a smart head coach, and I am so optimistic about the future of this team. Sorry I rambled so long. I love Joe Judge.
No, I mean, I can't blame him. How long do you think it takes for Joe Judge to pull that thing that Belichick did with Brady where they act like they're going for it on like a 4th and short, and then Daniel Jones punts the ball? Because I think it's coming at some point.
He did it at Duke. He did it a few times at Duke.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
And then after they did it, because he did it versus Miami, and then against Clemson, this shows how much of a Daniel Jones nut is. I remember like individual snaps from his college. I went through his college stuff like 7 times. And then against Clemson, they lined up in that formation, did the fake punt, and then hit the wide receiver on a curl route for a first down.
Right, yeah, and I think
yes,
it was a good
that
punt.
will happen eventually.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. So we'll get over to Justin here. Now, please start off with some positive things. Then we'll get into the 4th down. All right, so get into it.
Yes. Chris talked about the moment he bought in. It was the mudslide for me. I mean, it was the mudslide. No.
I was pretty bought in with the mudslide. I'm not going to lie.
He made training camp fun. I mean, we were putting tennis balls in our hands for episodes, running laps during episodes.
How about the media making fun of him for the tennis balls? They said, "Oh, this is high school stuff," and then people went as far to criticize him for practicing in the rain. They said that, "Oh, he's going over the top. He's practicing in the rain."
But this is great that we're starting off with the training camp because I have been a fan, and luckily I've been a college student. So what it means that when you're a college student, you have your summers. So I'm going up to East Rutherford, New Jersey. I'm going up to the Timex Performance Center. I'm also going up to the Quest Diagnostics practice field. So unfortunately, didn't get a chance to do that this summer. But just watching McAdoo's training camps, watching Shermer's training camps, and I understand we only get limited access. I understand, there are some practices that they have in the, that's not open to the public. There are some practices that they have that's in the actual little facility itself within their like indoor facility. So I understand that, but just watching them, there was no sense of urgency. There was no energy. And you felt like, the media is talking about, this Giants team is expected to do this year. This Giants team is expected to do that this year. But just watching the team, and I know nothing. I'm a fan. I think I'm a crazy fan that, all four of us are very crazy fans that watch this team, rewatch this team, look at numbers, look at things, talk about this team way more than the average person. But still, I know nothing relative to football people. But still, just getting the feeling watching those practices, it wasn't good. It just wasn't good or great. And it really sucks that we weren't there or even beat reporters weren't really there full time to really tweet out the attention to detail as Bobby and Chris mentioned already, the attention to detail that Joe Judge has. But from what we did here, and simply just the man he is, he is attention to detail. That is his personality. That is his persona. And I will say, Mike, you talked about the introductory press conference, how he blew everybody away. And while it's all coach speak, while it's all hogwash, some people say that in New York, and after especially coming from Ben McAdoo, who was obviously not, a media person, maybe he was a people person behind the scenes. Pat Shurmur definitely didn't seem like a people person, whether it was behind a camera or with his players, just didn't seem like it. Joe Judge is an educator, he's a smart man, and he's a people person. All three of those things. And in New York, that's important. Being able to communicate, being able to speak, and getting a fan base excited with your words, that is something tangible that a head coach can do well in New York. May not matter when you're in Houston, right? May not matter when you're in Jacksonville. May not matter when you're in Cleveland, right? Or random NFL city. But in New York, there is a value, and it is important. And from day one, he hit that part of it out of the park when, guess what? That was the only thing that he really could hit out of the park during this weird offseason with the limited access.
Right, exactly. And yeah, I don't know. Do you want to talk about the fourth down thing now? Because I will defend him. I'm going to defend him right now. Wow. He was up. The Giants were up 14-3, right? They're up 14-3, I think, right before the half. It's a 4th and short, and they punt the ball. Probably didn't sit right with some people, but you know what? For how bad the Eagles' offense was playing at that point, I was all for it. Usually, I'm fine with going for 2, and Doug Peterson brings the analytics to a whole nother level, going for 2 every freaking time. So there's a balance, of course, but honestly, Joe Judge went for a 4th down and short on the goal line with Wayne Gallman. They scored a touchdown there. So I think he takes the calculated risk when he needs to. I don't think he should go for every single 4th and short. But in that particular situation, there's many others this year, of course. But from this past game, on that one right before half when they were up 14-3, I agree with the decision. I want to hear your opinion, though. Did you agree with the punt decision before half?
Before the half, if it basically where I am at, if it's a 4th and short on the other side of the 50-yard line, and especially if you're, most likely if you're behind in a game, but still, even the Giants being the team that they are in 2020 this year, where you're even when you're ahead by double digits in the second quarter, third quarter, finding a way to give away games, and the way that they have found a way to, number 1, lose games, and number 2, give away games, it's settling for field goals and not putting 7 points on the board. The Giants have been an awesome offense, and this is where I get to my analytics, and then I bring my analytics to how I think about things. The Giants offense has been an above average offense of holding onto the ball this year and sustaining drives and not necessarily moving down the field. It's so crazy to think about, well, how can you be almost dead last in the National Football League in yards per drive and especially points per drive, but be an above average team in time of possession per drive. Like it just doesn't make sense. And the way that is, it's because of how conservative the offense has been. And that's a Jason Garrett discussion. But when you have certain opportunities, plus side of the 50-yard line, 4th and short to either, a maybe a close to field goal range / you're in field goal range. My main problem with Joe Judge, without going to specific instances and nitpicking here and there, you're coaching to not lose the game versus coaching to win the game. And that line is, where I have had the biggest problem is that we know this Giants team is not very good. We know this Giants defense has had a hard time getting off the field. They've been doing very well bending, not breaking, but they've been doing a very good job they haven't been doing a very good job of getting off the field. So
except this past week, 0 for 9.
Right, 0 for 9. And if Patrick Graham could, everything worked well against Philly. Everything. Yeah. 0 for 9. They forced the best teams in the NFL are teams that usually don't get to third down. And when Philadelphia did get to third down, they were 0 for 9, which is absolutely awesome, and that's awesome on the Giants. And they were able to make their red zone conversions into touchdowns. But because of the lack of talent that the Giants had, I would love to see Coach Judge coaching to win and outright win the game instead of not lose. That's been my only critique, but it's a small critique, and it's not that big of a deal. I'm not saying fire him or anything like that.
Yeah, no, very fair. I'm with you. You coach to win the game, not just stay in it and stay alive. I do agree with that. And there were games this year where it's happened. I think, in the close games, it might have been the Buccaneers one. There was an instance where he did it, and same with the Eagles Thursday night game. There might have been an instance as well where if they went for it and got the extra 4 points, it might have resulted in the win. So I do agree with you in that standpoint. So I guess the host will give his opinions as well. I think we've been doing that. But my opinions of Joe Judge, I mean, look, I'm thrilled with him so far. Just like Bobby, and I think Chris said as well, I don't know if Justin said it, but I wanted to keep Pat Shurmur if they were keeping Dave Gettleman. Made no sense to keep one and get rid of the other, in my opinion. But I guess now I'm happy because Joe Judge is awesome. Yeah. So some things that Joe Judge has done, kind of like I guess strategy-wise, that has definitely stood out compared to the other guys being McAdoo and Shurmur. He has every kickoff basically go right to the goal line. He's not going to give a team the ball on the 25-yard line. He's going to make them return it and take every yard he can get and push the team back as far as they can go. There's basically those times where they're near midfield and they'll just run the punt team on and off and switch on and off with the offense to just throw off a team. They should have got 12 men on the field against, I forget who it was, but I don't know if it was last week or the week before. They should have had 12 men on the field for the other team. The ref kind of screwed them with that one. Yeah, it was the play I was talking about earlier. Yeah. Right. Yeah. They do that every time, and it's going to work at some point. So there was that. There's the running to the line. There was one play. I forget who this was against, but there was one play. It was a third down, I think it was, or I don't even know what down it was, but it was like an iffy catch. The ball might have hit the ground, and I don't know if it was one of the players or the way they're coached. I'm assuming it's the way they're coached. Every Giants player ran to the line to get that next play off before they can call the challenge. That's coaching right there. I absolutely love that. Yes, Austin Mack. I don't know who the opponent was, but it was Austin Mack. You're right. That is exactly who it was. The attention to detail here is great. They have those 4th and short midfield plays where they're going to fake go for it. And I just love everything the guy does, honestly. And he's kind of like this CEO in a way. He kind of overlooks everything. He's not just a Pat Shurmur, a McAdoo who's going to look at one side of the ball. He's looking over everybody. We had one position group that was struggling mightily. He helped the offensive line. Look how well they're playing now. I think I tweeted the other day, I think yesterday, everything this man is touching is turning to gold, and it's making a lot of sense to me. And if he can continue to do that, once this guy gets the talent, in my opinion, because the talent here, let's be honest with ourselves, the talent on this Giants roster is still at best average for the NFL. Average. Yeah, I agree. Once you get this guy good players, I mean, watch out, because Joe Judge can do a lot with that talent. But I'll let Chris or Bobby talk on some Joe Judge points, but after that, we'll move on to our next point.
Well, I'll say this real quick. I was listening to, and I brought this up earlier. It was Chris Long with Ryan Russillo. I like the Ryan Russillo for basketball pod, so I listened to his football stuff. And he was talking with Chris Long, and Chris Long was talking about how a lot of these coaches nowadays, they talk about accountability and stuff, but it's but they let their position coaches suck and get away with everything, and they never hold them accountable. We just saw Judge do it with Colombo, and that was nice. Maybe we could do it with the offensive coordinator. I'm not going to open that can of worms. I'm just not a big fan of Jason Garrett. We spent a lot of it on our last episode if you want to check it out. But like I said before, I think he has been implementing stuff in the run game. So I think he's been putting his hands on the offense a little more these last few weeks. So, yeah, I mean, I just like the fact that not only does he just hold his players accountable, like it's easy to hold your players accountable, but to hold your coaching staff, your friends, the ones you're meeting with, the ones you're talking about every player with, that's a new level, and I love that about him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what I'll just add is when you factor in everything that this guy's had to deal with, and I know every coach has to deal with the pandemic, but he had to deal with the pandemic in his rookie year. He had to deal with an arrest to a cornerback in the offseason, an arrest to the kicker in the offseason. He had to deal with two completely different schemes and the players not having the proper time to learn them going into the year. He had to deal with elite defenses to start, elite football teams to start the year. Very experienced Pittsburgh Steelers team who's undefeated, the Rams, the Niners, the defending champions. And for him to overcome all of that and have this team looking the way they've looked, and I'm not even just talking about the wins. The last 7 weeks, the way this team has looked in comparison to the first 3, it's a miracle. It really is, and it really does show him. It really does give me so much confidence for this team, and I really do believe he is going to be here for like a decade. Like I think he's going to be one of those coaches that's going to. I think he's going to win a couple of Super Bowls. I'm that high on him, and I tweeted out today. You know, I forgot it might have been Justin that mentioned or Bobby that mentioned it, the spraying of the hose. They're gonna have a statue of that outside of MetLife Stadium
I like that.
in like 20 years. They're gonna see with him diving in the mud with the football.
Yeah, if his tenure here turns out as well as we hope it does, I think that is a possibility. We talked about accountability before with the Golden Tate thing. Golden Tate's not some schmuck. He's had a really good NFL career, a Super Bowl champion, multiple 1,000-yard seasons, 80-plus catches many times in his career. He doesn't care who you are. You're going to get disciplined. And he had him on the scout team. He benched him for a week. I was a fan of it, but we've talked a lot about the coach now. Let's get into another part of the Giants that is concerning. This is going to be more maybe a negative part of the video. I don't even know. But we're going to talk about, of course, the Giants are playing meaningful games right now. This is probably more for next year, of course, and even how they can salvage it this year. The Giants right now have a major cornerback 2 problem. We know their cornerback 1 is awesome. We love James Bradbury. He's great. But they also have potentially a wide receiver 1 problem. Now, I got in an argument with some people this week talking about, well, Darius Slayton's a wide receiver 1 in the NFL. He's great. I've always said he's a wide receiver 2 in the NFL, in my opinion. I think he can be a great comparison as Amani Toomer, who had a great career here. I think he could be a really good number 2. I don't view Darius Slayton as a number 1 wide receiver. There's a lot of good guys in free agency this offseason. I'm sure we'll bring up some names as this goes on, but we'll start with Bobby as we did last time. What would you do first to fix the cornerback 2 spot? Then we'll get to wide receiver after.
Cornerback 2, man. I would have brought back DeAndre Baker. I really would have. I can go on a spiel. One, just on a human level, I believe in giving people second chances, even who do horrible. Even if like he was found guilty and he came out, like I believe in giving the worst people second chances. I've seen people have those chances and make the best of them. But I would have brought back Baker because really there's not any like surefire solution. Free agency at corner this year is weak. I mean, there's some guys. It's like, okay, maybe he's a guy, and you can have him as a stopgap. But I don't think there's anybody in free agency you're going to go like, oh, that's our cornerback too, unless you're spending money on a 31-year-old Patrick Peterson. So it has to be in the draft. But my friend Justin, I might be stealing one of his talking points. He made a point a while ago. He's like, I don't ever want to draft cornerback again. Like we seem to be able to do all right drafting any position. Besides, just no more drafting corners. Just sign the best ones.
I want 25% of our cap space allocated to cornerback 1 and 2.
I mean, yeah, like we've been able to, Jenkins was good. DRC was good. We've always been able to sign good corners, never been able to draft them. So my thing would be the only like thing is like hoping like J.C. Horn would fall to the second round or something out of South Carolina. Like I haven't done my cornerback homework yet besides him. But just hoping you get somebody in the second round because I don't see us going cornerback in round 1 with some of the holes on the team.
Let me ask this. Let me ask this. I know I'm messing up the order, Mike, but this is just my natural podcast brain and my natural co-host brain that wants to ask a probing question. Do we really think that CB2 this year is that like major of a red flag concern? Because
I do.
You do. So Chris, I'm gonna go to you first. But I'm a guy that likes to look at data. As I say, I've probably said it 5 times this episode already. But I'm a guy that likes to look at data. And the biggest reason why the 2019 Giants defense was not successful. And it's a very big reason. It's probably the biggest reason why defense can't or won't be successful is because they allowed big explosive pass plays throughout the entire season. They were the worst pass defense in the NFL last year in regards to allowing big explosive pass plays. Think back to that Green Bay game. You know, how many times was Aaron Rodgers just flinging the ball down the field when Aaron Rodgers has gotten hate the last couple of years that he hasn't been flinging the ball down the field? Think of the two matchups. Did you just say something, Bobby Skinner? I will fight you.
Not by me.
I will fight you after this show. Think of the two Dallas matchups that we had last year, especially week one. Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott just flinging the ball down the field. The biggest difference in the 2020 Giants defense, they've had trouble getting off the field, not counting Philly. Hopefully they can turn that around for the final 6 games. But the biggest difference in this Giants pass defense is that they haven't been allowing big explosive pass plays. If you're not allowing big explosive pass plays, it is harder for NFL teams. Just ask the Giants. It's harder for NFL teams to score touchdowns consistently when you're having 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-plus play drives. It's very difficult to score 7 points consistently. That's what you've seen the Giants be successful with this year. So, in my brain, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world if Patrick Graham is still our defense coordinator and we don't very much take a huge jump and upgrade at cornerback 2. I don't think it's the end of the world. Chris, you disagree with me?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Here's my thought process. This is and I agree with you that we have not been giving up as many big plays as last year. We did. Yadam had that really bad play. I think it was 2 weeks ago with the broken tackle, or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, where they give the long touchdown. But overall, you're absolutely right. We have not been giving up huge chunk plays. But I think it's because it's limiting Patrick Graham in a way. You look at Patrick Graham's resume coming into the year. He was ultra aggressive. Blitz. Giants only have blitzed 19th most in the league. We blitz 28% of the time. That's less than Betcher. And the biggest reason why I think he can't be as aggressive as he wants to be is because of the limitation at that corner position.
Yeah.
I think the New York Giants want to come out there. They want to play a lot of man-press corner, but they know if they leave Isaac Yiadom or Ryan Lewis out there on an island, they're going to get completely cooked. So in a way, yeah, he's and this is a credit to Patrick Graham, and this is a credit to great coaching. He's playing to the strengths on this defense. He knows that is such a big weakness that he can't be ultra aggressive. But I think in his heart, he wants to be. He wants this to be a defense that's even much more aggressive than it's been. But he can't do it because of that weakness at that corner spot. So in my opinion, I think that is our biggest weakness on the defense. And if we bring in a really strong corner, we're going to be that much more aggressive next year.
I love it. You took my analytics and you spat it right back in my face. I love it. I love it. You got me bought in. I haven't checked the blitz percentage numbers this year. So
19th got me. 19th. I just did a video on it. That's why I know. 28% of the time we're blitzing.
Love it. You got me back in. CB2. Nice. All for it.
Good numbers, guys. But let me ask you real quick. Just give me like a name real quick. How do you guys fix cornerback 2 the rest of the season? Do you go Isaac Yiadom the rest of the way? Do you go Ryan Lewis when he's ready? Do you finally maybe put Julian Love at outside corner, which the Giants do not seem they want to do? Or do you put Logan Ryan there more because Xavier McKinney's coming back, we hope? So what do you guys do the rest of the year? We'll start with Bobby again.
Yiadom has done enough for me to say him. It's between him and Ryan Lewis. And I just remember that Ballantyne's on the team. And it's just because, one, I want McKinney to be brought back in slowly. And I think that's what they will do. And Logan Ryan seems to be doing pretty good at that hybrid safety corner spot. And honestly, he's been a nickel corner, the most recent years in the NFL. So going into the season, I said pit Ryan at corner and Love at free safety. So I would just stick with, for the rest of the year, Yiadom and Lewis.
All right, let's go with Chris next.
I think I agree with that. I would look at it like, maybe if you want to get McKinney more playing time and you don't want to cut into Ryan's playing time, maybe you play him a little bit on the outside. But I agree. To me, there's no long-term answer on this roster at corner, whether it's shifting Love there. Love's not going to be the guy next. They're going to have a new guy there next year, in my opinion. And I would probably not want to screw with what you've built at the other positions. And these guys have gotten used to their roles, and they've played well so doing it. I wouldn't do too much shifting at that position. Maybe you play a little Ryan there. Maybe you experiment with Darnay Holmes a bit. But overall, I think I stick with what I got because I realize on this roster right now, I don't have the answer there. And if I was the GM, I'm addressing it in the draft.
So this is something interesting that I've been on a big Adrian Colbert fandom this year. I kind of have. When he's been there, he's been patrolling deep center field, and something that the Giants did not have coming into this year. And I know Adrian Colbert, he's missed more games than he's played in, but I'm particularly thinking back to that Rams game and thinking back to the explosive play data and the explosive play point. Think of how good that Rams game was defensively, except one of the final drives of the game, lo and behold, who was playing deep center field safety? Julian Love, not Adrian Colbert. So now that, I don't exactly know Adrian Colbert's injury timetable when he's hopefully going to come back. Hopefully it's after the bye, with also thinking about how we want to slowly work back Xavier McKinney, but also give him reps. And Xavier McKinney's main strength is going to be kind of an in-the-box guy, not really a deep center field safety guy. He's a guy that can cover half the field. I don't know if I fully trust him covering the whole, the entire field. I feel better about McKinney when he's moving forward than he is when he is moving backward. So that's typically a guy that's in the box. It's typically a guy that, almost playing a pseudo linebacker type of role. So we have a good problem at safety. So the Giants seem pretty adamant about cross-training, but also pretty adamant about not giving Julian Love reps at cornerback, outside corner. I don't know why. I really don't know why.
View him as, I've been on the all offseason. I was like, Julian Love should play corner. I think he's good to play corner. When they got him out of Notre Dame, I thought he was a steal for the cornerback spot. But I'm at the point of acceptance that they just don't think Julian Love's a corner. And like we started this off with, and Joe Judge and Patrick Graham, I trust.
But wouldn't it make, yes, and I 100% trust them, but wouldn't it just make sense, because we have this problem at safety, and Julian Love is seeing the least amount of snaps between Logan Ryan, Jabril Peppers, and even when Colbert was healthy, Julian Love was seeing the least amount of snaps. I think it would make sense, and obviously if they're not giving him reps, they're not just going to throw him out there. It would make sense for him to try him at outside corner. He played it at Notre Dame. Try him and see how it works, because Julian Love, he can be a long-term answer on the roster because he is a draft pick and he's here for 4 years. So he can be a long-term answer if you try him and if you see him there. If they don't see him there, I trust him, fine. But it is an option.
That's the thing, as fans, we don't know what they see at practice. Right. I'm assuming at some points during I don't know if it's the preseason or training camp or during the season even, if they put Julian Love there. I made a whole video in the offseason of why I think he deserves reps at cornerback too. But at this point, it seems like, as Bobby said, you kind of have to let it go. I don't think it's going to happen if they haven't done it yet. But Julian Love is a pretty good football player. I don't know where they're going to put him in the future, but I don't want to let him go to waste. And they have a lot of good safeties now, which is a good problem to have. So, I mean, they have this Adrian Colbert guy who apparently is the next big thing, So you can't sleep on him either. Yeah. But they have all these safeties now that are pretty good players. And I don't think Julian Love really fits into the future as a safety here, unfortunately. So, me just looking at it from a logical standpoint, you don't have a cornerback too. Why not try him out? But I guess we'll see. If they don't do it after the bye week, then it's probably never going to happen. But we'll see. For me personally, I kind of want to do what they do with the offensive line, kind of like a hot hand approach, and I think they've been doing this most of the year. If Isaac Yiadom's getting torched, you go back to Ryan Lewis. If Ryan Lewis gets torched, back to Yiadom. I don't know what else you can do. There's kind of limited options here. We all thought we were getting Ross Cockrell before the year, which would have been nice, but I know he's on the Buccaneers now. But, it would have been better to have a nice, solidified cornerback too that can hold his own. We don't really have that. It seems like at times Isaac Yiadom's been playing really well. There were times a few weeks ago where Ryan Lewis looked like he was the answer. He's kind of reverted back to where he should be. So I don't know. You play the hot hand, in my opinion. There's not going to be an answer on this roster this year. I think during the draft, though, there's, as you said, the free agency class for cornerbacks not that great. Hopefully during the draft they find somebody in round 2 or 3 that they can fill in there. But with that being said, we'll get on the wide receiver now. We'll start with Chris this time, but let me get into it. So the Giants have a wide receiver 1 problem, in my opinion. So they let go of Odell Beckham, a trade that looks like it's going to work in their favor, especially for how Jabril Peppers has been playing lately. Dexter Lawrence, a very solid player, as we know, and O'Shane Ximines hopefully forms into something in the future. But they get rid of him. They bring in Golden Tate at 31 or 30 years old, whatever he was when we signed him. And he is a slot guy. Now, Sterling Shepard's a slot guy as well. So that fit right there made no sense. You're putting Shepard back on the outside. So, Golden Tate had a good year for the games he played in last year. He got the suspension, of course, but came back, played, had 6 touchdowns, a nice yards per game and things like that. So he came in this year. Things were not looking good. Had the hamstring injury, kind of got worked back in slowly. He's had a few big plays this year, but not consistent. Had the, give me the ball more. His wife going off on Instagram, and so far didn't fit the whole culture thing this year. So Golden Tate, we all know, is probably gone next year. But we expect Sterling Shepard to be here next year based on his contract. We know Slayton's going to be here next year. I don't view him as a wide receiver 1. You guys let me know how you feel about that. But the Giants could use an alpha wide receiver 1. Here's some names for you in the next year's free agency. And, of course, there's guys in the draft as well. But Allen Robinson, Kenny Golladay, Chris Godwin, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Sammy Watkins. I'll just throw him in there. I'm not a big Sammy Watkins guy, but I'll throw him in there. But we'll start with Chris because you haven't talked in a while. Chris, what would you do in this situation with wide receiver 1?
Another name I want to throw into the hat is actually having a good year, and I made a video on him when the Titans decided not to extend him, was Corey Davis.
I know. That was going to be my guy.
I think Corey Davis does fit this offense very nicely, what the Air Coryell scheme. He's tall. He's having a really good year, so I want to throw his name in there. I'd actually prefer him to Watkins. I like Watkins as well as a cheaper alternative. I want nothing to do with Juju. I think you're going to have to overpay to bring him in. If you're spending big, the first 2 names you said, Golladay or Allen Robinson, they're far and away the 2 best. You're going to have to spend big. I'm starting to lean that way, though, because I am a corner guy in the first round. I want to address this immediately. And if I'm going to do that, I need to spend big on the wide receiver. I'm leaning that route. I think I would go wide receiver free agency if I could get one of those guys. We don't know if we're going to be able to. Lions could franchise him. Same with Robinson. We don't know. But if they become available and I had that money to do it, I would address it just like we did for Eli in his second year with Burris. I would go out there and get him a proven target. I actually watched Bobby's video on Golladay, and I agree with a lot of what he had to say. That tall target, much like Burris, that I think would fit this scheme. I think he's the number 1 guy to go after. But Allen Robinson is a very close second. And I completely agree with you on Slayton. Golden Tate's gone. He's gone. But I completely agree with you on Slayton. I like Slayton, and maybe Slayton could be a 1A. He could be like Toomer, like we've said before, Mike. But do I view him as a guy that strikes fear into the hearts of opposing defenses? He could become that, but I don't know that yet. And I need to help Daniel Jones as much as I possibly can next year if I'm bringing him back. And at this point, I think we all agree he's going to be the quarterback. I got to go out there and get him a supreme talent at wide receiver because that's the missing link to this offense right now. It's going to help the running game. It's going to help the offensive line. It's going to help the quarterback. You need that top-tier wide receiver. It's what we're missing now in the offense. Everything else is pretty much filled in because if you move Slayton into the number 2 spot, he's going to be a very good number 2 wide receiver. He's no longer getting the number 1 corner on him. He probably won't be seeing double coverage. It's going to help out the whole offense if you could get that dynamic playmaker. And I actually would elect to do that in free agency at the wide receiver position if I had the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, I think free agency is probably the way to go here. This is not a wide receiver class, as far as I know, that was not as stacked as it was last year. So we'll go to Bobby next. Tell us why Corey Davis will be the next wide receiver 1 for the Giants.
You're muted, Bobby. Here you go.
Mute. Yep.
Not muted anymore.
There you go.
Corey Davis is actually option number 3. Allen Robinson and Kenny Golladay. I like both those guys. Now, both those guys do scare me, though, because they've had injury issues. They do scare me. But let me put it this way. If we sign one of those guys, I don't care for how much money, I am celebrating because those guys are 2 legit number 1s. And I agree with you guys on Slayton. He's not a legit number 1, and I don't think that's a knock on him. He's a really good wide receiver, just not like a bona fide number 1. But I think he can be a number 2 with someone like Corey Davis next to him, who
a 1A situation. Yeah, 1A. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that would benefit him too, and it would benefit both of them. So, but I'm also somebody who would draft a wide receiver in the top 10. I know people say you don't draft wide receiver. I think wide receiver is important. It changes the way, like you were saying, Chris. If teams are having to play 2 high safeties against us, it makes us run the ball easier. I mean, I was showing a stat to Justin. I mean, we're top 5 in the league of having a stacked box against us this season.
Yep.
So that changes the way defenses are played, and you see part of it is Jason Garrett's. Like, they just don't respect us downfield because they just we don't. We talked about it in the Daniel Jones episodes. Like, we just don't even run those plays, to be honest. And we're the highest blitz team in the NFL. So my options would be those two, Galladay or Robinson, then Corey Davis, and then if not there, Jamar Chase. But ideally, I'd like to get somebody in free agency, and then the draft is kind of like whatever you want.
BPA on the defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think I go BPA kind of regardless in the draft,
Yeah.
unless you were talking like I'm not taking center.
Yeah.
For BPA to an extent,
Yeah.
With the important positions, yes, I get it. Yeah, Justin, give us your opinion for who you want the Giants wide receiver to want to be next year.
I'm thinking free agency too, because next year we're going to be approaching a very tight window of Daniel Jones still on his rookie deal. You probably have 1 to 2 years where they might have to work out some sort of extension.
Barkley as well.
But especially Barkley. I mean, Barkley is especially next year's Saquon Barkley, and it's tough because there's actually fantasy football data that shows that it's not 1 year after your torn ACL, it's 2 years after your torn ACL that you're the best version of yourself. Look at Dalvin Cook. Look at Dalvin Cook last year. That was the second year coming off the torn ACL. And then even look at Marcus Golden. Marcus Golden was coming off the second year of the torn ACL, and everybody thought that he was done based off of the 2018 that he had in Arizona. 2019, second year off the injury, he has a double-digit sack season. So a lot of the data shows that it takes 2 years to fully recover from the ACL injury. But still, nevertheless, Saquon Barkley can still be a good version of himself. So next year is an interesting time where I don't know if you want to be developing a guy. I don't know. Is next year really the time that you want to be developing someone at wide receiver? It's very enticing because you do have guys like Chase. You do have guys. I love Jalen Waddle, and it might actually help the Giants depending on what what pick they get in the second round of the draft this year. But if Waddle had a season-ending injury for Alabama early in the year, so if he falls to a certain extent, I don't know. But I lean more free agency because you have a guy that comes in and he's established and he's ready to rock and roll versus a guy, it takes time to develop wide receivers. It's not like running back where running backs usually come in and boom, they're ready to rock and roll. You look at Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you look at Saquon, you look at Zeke from his rookie year. These guys are ready to rock and roll. Not really like that with wide receiver. I feel like Beckham's rookie year was like the exception. So that's my take. Regardless, I want an athlete, want a guy that could expand the field because it also makes Sterling Shepard better. So that's the guy that we haven't talked about. Along with my tirade that I went on with Leonard Williams this summer about how important he is, I was also going on a tirade about how important Sterling Shepard is. Sterling Shepard's the only wide receiver on the Giants that creates separation.
He's actually played well recently.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shepard.
And
Like
I
80%
thought
catch rate is crazy.
I thought that, and I knew that this Jason Garrett system, I knew heading into the year that the average depth of target that the Giants were going to have was not going to be significant. It wasn't going to be a lot because when Jason Garrett was the play caller in Dallas, they were they were in the bottom quarter of the National Football League in least amount of air yards in terms of how far the quarterback is throwing the ball down the field. So that's perfect for Shepard. Perfect. He became in 2019 with Daniel Jones, he became like the perfect slot receiver, even though it's technically not his role because Golden Tate's the majority slot receiver, but he became this guy that creates separation. He's not really getting a lot of yards after the catch anymore, and he's not really catching a lot of deep balls. However, he has been catching some, deep balls down the seam on the left, parts of the sideline. You look back to the Philly game with the back shoulder catch. He's done that a few times this year, but largely he's an intermediate guy. And there's no other wide receiver on the Giants right now that can do as good as a job as getting open as Sterling Shepard can. So if you can bring somebody else in who can expand the field, who can get who can actually, where defenses actually can respect the Giants, play too high safety, that only helps the intermediate part of the game. And it will only help Daniel Jones more.
Yeah, for sure. For my opinion on this, I mean, of course, you would like to have the big fish with Galladay or Robinson, but I do think there's a chance that either or both guys get franchise tagged. But I think Corey Davis is an interesting option there. I think they declined this fifth-year option. I had a video out before the year of like potential guys that the Giants can trade for before the year started, and Corey Davis was on that list. I figured this is a very talented guy who's gotten off to a rough start. He's had Marcus Mariota as his quarterback for a majority of his career. He's had some success with Tannehill this year. He got off to a really good start. I think had COVID, came came back, has had another really, I think he had 0 catches a couple games ago, but outside of that one game, he's been really good this year. Corey Davis, he would be a perfect complement to a guy like Darius Slayton, honestly. A really good possession receiver, can go up and get it. Chris mentioned how, tall he is. I think it'd be a really good mixture with him and Darius Slayton, honestly, and Sterling Shepard as well. So we will see what happens there. And admittedly, I have to do my draft research about, who I want the Giants to get there for wide receiver, but I have not looked yet. I think that's it for our topics, right, guys? I think we went over cornerback 2, wide receiver 1, Joe Judge. I think that's everything, right?
You hit it on the head, man. And, those to me, those are our 2 biggest needs in this offseason. Yeah. It's a wide receiver and it's a cornerback. And I wouldn't be against drafting a wide receiver either if we didn't get one in free agency, if we're in the right spot. I'm not taking Jamar Chase top 4, but if we're 8, 9, and he's there 7, I'd entertain it. Because, a guy like Penny Sewell, even though we have great tackles, if he falls to 4, I'm not taking Jamar Chase over him. So it's all dependent on where we're picking. But in the right circumstance, I wouldn't be against taking him.
Right, exactly. I'll let Justin and Bobby say something before we totally wrap up here, if you guys want to go.
I don't know. You guys just talking about the draft, and this is weird. Yeah. This is how my brain works. My mind just keeps thinking of Chaz Surratt, the linebacker from UNC, who's I'm just hoping he's gonna be in the second. I don't know how my mind goes there. It's just as soon as my brain is broken. This is how much I like this guy. This is so random. But anytime someone brings up the draft, my mind goes inside linebacker Chaz Surratt from UNC, former quarterback, fast. He's their best pass rusher. He's a beast. So watch out for the guy Chaz Surratt.
But can we please stop talking about the draft?
I'm with you.
When we're going to win the division?
You're right.
Come on. We're going to the playoffs. I don't know what the playoff format is, by the way. I don't know if division winners get a home game.
I think they do.
Yeah.
Like that. So. That's
unless they postpone this. Unless they add an extra week, then yes.
If they add an extra week, then what do they do by winning percentage? But screw it. I don't care. We're winning the NFC East, and we're getting into the playoffs. If we're having a home playoff game, I will be breaking into MetLife Stadium. Mike, you're invited to join. Chris, you're also invited to join. Bobby,
I was gonna say, man, what the hell?
No, I don't know. I knew Mike was local. You have that local voice, so there's no way that you have no way. There's no way that you left the area. Bobby, stay in Florida because you love Florida. And we're all breaking in, and we're all gonna go. We'll all vlog it. We'll be like the vloggers. Yeah. I guess we're Bobby and I are part of YouTube now. So Bobby, we need to learn how to vlog.
Actually, never mind. I'm going to keep myself quiet on that one.
Okay, keep yourself quiet. You don't want to vlog Little Caesars and fight people? Come on.
Oh God.
That has turned into its own. When people think of Little Caesars, they think of me, and that's not what I wanted.
Joe Judge brought it up in a press conference. All right, but this is not a
Joe Judge listens to Talkin Giants, so if you guys don't listen, you better listen.
Does he really?
I brought up a story, and I'll keep this short. About an altercation where a guy was being very mean to a woman in a Little Caesars, and I just stood up for her. And people thought that story was hilarious because of a line I said where I was like, dude, we're in the middle of a Little Caesars, and people thought that was so funny.
Yeah.
And I was in there getting it for like a church group. I was getting like a bunch of kids, 40 people. So it's like, it's the one time you're allowed to go to Little Caesars is when you're trying to feed 40 people. And ever since then, and then Joe Judge in his like Tuesday morning like presser talks about like going to Little Caesar. So like that can't be a coincidence.
Yeah, it's not a coincidence. No, I think
I often wonder about that. Do you think like the players and the coaches watch us?
Here and there, not every time, but there's times where they want to hear what they're being said.
They name search themselves.
You know who does? Their family members. You guys don't realize how many family members watch us. Their family members watch us. And like the family members are tuned into what people are saying about them.
Which is a scary thought because I feel like not everything I say about this team is positive. So I apologize if I offend anybody.
I told you, Nate Solder's wife unfollowed us because we were just brutal on him for a while.
I'm sorry, Evan, if you're listening, I apologize. But you got to catch the football, man. I don't know what else to tell you. But, man, thank you so much for having me on, man. I really appreciate it. And
yeah, we got to do this more often, guys. I think if the Giants do find their way into the playoffs this year, we should all get together, have a little, celebration, and then talk about the playoff game. And even if not, we'll talk about some off-season plans. the D word draft. We'll talk about that as well once we get there. But it was a fun meeting with all you guys, and hopefully everyone watching these videos enjoys very much. Subscribe to Talkin Giants. Subscribe to the Entertainah. You guys probably know him by now because we do weekly videos. But thank you, Talkin Giants, for joining us in this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.